I'd like to welcome you to the Urbana Town Council monthly meeting on April 27th, 2023. Let's call to order. Roll call. Marjorie Austin.
Here.
Beth Justice.
Here.
Larry Tuning.
Here.
Bill Goldsmith Mayor is here. Alana Courtney.
Here.
Mary Hanson.
Here.
And down at the end there, Sandy Sturgill. I
Here.
had to look. Doesn't get better. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance.
That was hard.
All right, we have the agenda before us. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve them.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Let's take a vote. Marjorie Austin.
Yes.
Beth Justice.
Yes.
Larry Tuning.
Yes.
I say yes. Alana Courtney.
Yes.
Mary Hanson.
Yes.
Sandy Sturgill.
Yes.
All right. Next on the agenda is approval of the minutes for March 9th and for March 23rd of this year.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Do I have a second for that?
I second.
Any discussion? All right. Take a vote on those. Marjorie Austin?
Yes.
Beth Justice?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
I say yes. Alana?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yeah.
All right. Over to you, Garth. Administrator's report.
Mr. Mayor, if it's okay with you, I'm going to report out on a couple things, but several other items that I would normally report on are going to be brought up under
Committees?
other, committees and
That's fine.
various points of the agenda.
Do what you need to do.
Okay, the first thing that I'd like to report out on was our circus. I believe everybody would be in agreement, was a complete success. It was a sellout crowd for the first show for Saturday, and a sellout crowd for Sunday's performance. And the town ended up getting $2,200.
24.
$2,400. And when they left, it looked like they'd never been there.
Wow.
So that was a very much a positive. So, and they're planning on coming back next year.
Excellent. For the record, I received nothing from my performance.
Thank you, thank you. Our mayor was a star of one of the acts, and that's always a good thing. And I understand that was orchestrated by our star reporter, Tom Chalimi.
I know nothing. The only negative, we couldn't get a gorilla for you.
To wrestle.
All right, and y'all's, in council's packet, y'all have a report from DMV, and the first page is a survey that we did for 7 days, and what we were trying to capture was who was coming to the DMV, and if they were visiting other locations, spending money at other businesses within the town, and also, obviously, the customer service. And that's included in your packet. And I think it's important to note that we had 24 people identified as local, and 9 did not identify as local. 18 responded with a distance between 19 and 78 miles. 19.78 miles, and the longest driven was 60 miles. Customer service was 100% courteous, 100% informative, and 100% prompt and efficient. And 100% of the folks said that they would recommend the DMV Select Urbana to other individuals. This survey was, 33 surveys were actually completed, and 74 customers during this time period. And it was conducted April 3rd through the 11th. And if you look at the next package, this is the report for 2022 from the day it opened, 2/14/2022 through December 31. And during that time, there were 4,314 transactions completed, and money brought in was $329,090.09. And that is what was brought in. That is not our take, obviously. We get 4% of that, and it was, what was it right at? It was like $40,000, wasn't it? So, any questions?
Nope.
I have a question, and that is, I've noticed and thank you for doing the survey, first of all, and I think Maribel is widely appreciated in terms of what she does. So I never want my questions to indicate anything negative about her. She is a great worker and an asset for us. It doesn't look like any of these people found out about us through the DMV. And in order to turn this from a loss, an annual loss, to something that is profit-making for us, what can be done to change that? And what can the DMV do for us? I thought they were supposed to refer transactions and things like that. And I don't see that, at least in your survey.
I didn't put that in the survey. I talked to Barry last week, and Barry Browning, who is the head of the DMV Select, and he gave several suggestions, and actually reached out to a couple of people that run titling companies in Virginia, and have referred us to them. And what they do is they go to different DMVs and give their business to them. And so I was in touch with one of the ladies in Mechanicsville that runs one of these titling companies, and she is putting us on her list. And we're also going to be reaching out to dealerships, and Barry is going to be submitting the titles that come in from other states to Virginia
Okay.
to us, which they were supposed to be doing.
Right. Well, you asked the question, how did you hear about us? And nobody says through the DMV. So, but that's good if we can turn that around with some of that kind of larger scale, and the larger scale, the dealers and that sort of thing. Thank you.
Yeah, 'cause
Well-
there's only one thing on here that says Google or Facebook, or
Yeah.
very few are that way too,
Yeah.
what surprises me.
The one thing is, in a while back, 78% of our customers are walk-in. And when we first started this operation, and because of COVID, we were told that it had to be appointment only. And people weren't using the appointment only, so Mary Bell suggested that we open it up to walk-ins, and it's worked really well.
So based on all this, we feel like it's where it should be?
You mean as far as money making?
Yeah, that's the
Oh,
only thing I think
absolutely
about.
not, but I mean,
Uh-huh.
you know, we went into this never as a money-making operation. We went into it to do exactly what it's doing, and that's bringing in people to the town. And I can tell you, I haven't gotten one complaint everybody that I've talked to says they want the DMV, including the county. Of course, they're not paying anything for it, but I mean,
Right.
but it's doing exactly what we wanted it to do, and that's bring people, it's a destination. And we agreed to go with them for 2 years. We're 1 year in, we got another year, and we'll see where we are then.
And the thing we may never be able to measure is what else those people did while they were in town, because it's possible that they'll eat lunch or they'll do something else, buy something, and we'll get sales tax or meals tax or cigarette tax because they need something, and I don't know that it's gonna be a quantifiable thing, so I think our goal should just get close. If we're close to breaking
We're not
even,
even close.
at this point, we're not close.
We're not
I-
even close.
We are all in agreement on that.
Okay.
But
Well-
I think we have to have our perspective correct and see a trend before we make a decision.
If you look at the survey results, we asked, and several people said that, yes, they conducted other business after they went, or before they went to the DMV. And so there are several of those in there. And that was one of the things we were trying to capture.
And
Right.
my recollection is when this was presented to us, Barry said that most places do actually turn a profit over a couple of
did.
years, right?
He did. That was one of the reasons I voted
Yeah.
in favor of it.
Now, Garth, let me ask you a question. Before I was on council, when I was in the audience, somebody made the remark, because I wrote it down, I remember being so shocked, that they said, that I can't believe that's true, it was 17,000 a week to break even.
Let's see.
I mean, that's what I wrote down,
That would probably be about right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would
Yeah,
be
that-
about
that-
right, I
yeah.
think,
a week.
in transactions, yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Not that we bring in, but this is transactions.
Right,
Yeah,
that,
worth of transactions.
Okay.
Did the gentleman who you talked to with DMV, did he give you any comparison with other areas about how we're doing after the first year? And maybe that's a question you should ask and bring it back to council. if you
I
have-
can ask that again, but he felt like when I talked to him, he felt like that we were doing well. That in fact, he said that he had told us that we would not make money the first year.
Well, they ought to have, they've done this all over the state.
Right.
Well, it's hard to compare, town to town, city to city, I know. But, he should have some idea, if we've done $328,000, what other communities have done their first year.
Right.
Which might tell us something
Right.
about what's going on.
Right.
yeah,
But this
One of
was
the
never
things
a
that-
money-making,
No.
venture to
but we
begin
wanna get
with.
close,
Yes.
we're
We,
trying to
we
get
need to
close.
get close.
one of the things that I think you and I discussed, Garth, was when they have that, what do they call it, a DMV in a box, where they come and do other, more, a broader menu of items,
Driver's licensing is what
driver's
that
license
is.
and stuff, that we weren't getting a cut of that. Did Barry say that we could in the future?
This administration is eliminating that program.
Oh,
But when we brought them in the one time, we were supposed to get a cut of anything that the DMV in a box did. And they were not supposed to do transactions that our DMV does. And apparently, that wasn't going on. So, but I asked about the DMV in a box, and this administration is phasing that out.
And so we started this in February of '22, and so I would say in February of '23, we
we
should,
need to reassess.
another
Right.
year, we should reassess and see if we're
Exactly.
Yeah.
improving.
Yeah, because if we're spending that much on personnel for the Commonwealth of Virginia, for their DMV, yes, we get services as a result of that. But if that money could be spent on other priorities that the town has, I think we need to think about that.
Yep, I think we're all in agreement.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think, I think when we voted on this, we realized what we were getting.
Yep.
And-
I didn't.
Well,
Oh, okay.
I mean, maybe I should have, I knew that it, but I didn't know it was going to be this much of a loss. That's what I didn't understand.
Mary, can I ask you something?
Sure.
We spend $90,000, and we don't know whether that's gonna go up or not in trash collection.
Yeah,
That's a service.
it is.
This is a service. That's why we brought this in, was to be a service to this community and to be a destination. And, you know, we are not supposed to be in the money-making business for profit all the time.
Exactly.
Our job is to provide services for the community, and, you know, for whatever
Well,
that's
and
worth.
some of, yes, I guess we have somewhat of a difference of opinion on that, I'll just say.
Yeah, I feel like we are supposed to spend the taxpayers' money wisely, and if it gets to the point where I feel like it's not being
Do
spent
you think
wisely.
do you think that we're
then
not spending money wisely?
what I didn't say that. I said, when it gets to the point with DMV next year, if it still is a loss to,
Well,
How much of a
I think
How
what we
much
need to
of a
do is look at the trend.
I think so too.
Yeah, and
I'm
it's
fully
way
in
too early to
agreement
make
with
any
that.
decision.
yeah, that's where I feel
Yeah.
about it. I'm not in
Yeah.
favor of getting rid of it.
No. Certainly, I don't think anybody is
No.
at this moment. Anything else, Garth, or was that it?
That's it.
Thank you, Garth.
Yeah, thank you. Treasurer's report.
As per submitted, I have no additions or anything other.
Anyone have any questions for Michelle?
Nope.
Am I reading the lodging tax right? That is going up? Or not?
I think the lodging tax has been going up
Yeah,
the last couple of years.
it has.
And I think when Gary Lister was in one of these meetings, she said that when they started doing pet-friendly stuff, that their
Yeah.
business jumped considerably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Good.
Anybody else on that? Water Committee.
Oh.
Ms. Justice.
It was Finance Committee.
The Water Committee report for April 27th.
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped and went the wrong way.
You
Yep.
want me to wait?
No, go ahead, you're going.
Okay, I'm here.
I thought I was
The Water Committee met on April 24th via Zoom. The observation well has been started for the new well, well number 6. Routine maintenance was performed on the backup generator for the well to ensure it will be functional if needed. HRSD has begun sewer upgrades throughout town, beginning with the Virginia Street area. Crews have been verifying utilities in preparation for this major project. This is not a part of our future water infrastructure upgrades. The VDH Infrastructure Upgrade Grant application is moving forward under the guidance of AH Environmental. VDH has made new requirements to include a listing of most critical to least critical regarding the planned upgrades. That information was a part of the asset management plan developed by AH and was incorporated into the Cartograph program. AH will be working with Cartograph to provide that information to VDH. The grant applications will be considered beginning May the 5th, 2023. Waterline mapping has lines identified by GPS coordinates, and the committee is looking into a system to identify lines when needed. Research into the most cost-effective equipment and subscriptions are being researched. The last water rate increase was the start of 2021. Some grants and funding avenues are not available to the town because water rates out of town are more than 50% higher than in-town rates. The recommendation of the committee is to raise in-town rates by 5%. This will start to close that gap. Water rates will still be lower than Middlesex Water Authority for out-of-town and significantly lower for in-town water customers. The next meeting of the Water Committee is currently scheduled for Monday, May the 22nd at 6 p.m. via Zoom. If you would like to observe the meeting, please contact town staff.
If I can add, thank you. If I can add one other thing, I was at the Middle Peninsula Planning District Commission meeting last night, and it doesn't seem reasonable to me based on what I've observed, but we are in a drought watch for this part of the county, and they suggested that we dust off at the next water committee meeting, we dust off our water conservation plan and make sure that it reads properly. So that's all I have to add. Now, finance.
All right, the Finance Committee meeting was last Friday, and we are continuing to work on completing the 23-24 budget for council's review and approval by June. We had a long discussion regarding the town of Urbana taking over the cemetery, and we resulted with a decision that we wanted to put it to the town residents for a vote and to get their input on how they felt about it.
More
So-
of a,
Yeah.
ask for public feedback.
Well, yeah, for public feedback. And then we'll try to have that in the near future. And that completes my report.
And for those who haven't been here in the past, the cemetery up on Red Hill that's run by Bristow's, they're trying to get out of that business. A lot of longtime Urbana residents, including some of the relatives of people sitting on this council, are up there. And we have been approached with some endowment to take that over going into the future so that the town has a cemetery. And so there's emotional things as well as fiscal considerations. The council talked about it, and that's a very tough call, so we're looking for more feedback. If anybody wants to write anybody a letter, that would be appreciated as to how you feel about it. At some point, it's gonna be a fiscal drain on the town, but it's always gonna be an emotional drain for the people that have relatives there or have plots going forward. So we don't wanna take that issue lightly.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Can I ask when we're going to get legal advice on that issue? Because that was one of the things that came up.
The legal advice is that more towns are trying to get out of this business than get in.
That sounds, I'm not sure that that sounds like legal advice. I don't understand what the legal requirements
Yeah.
are for having a cemetery and operating a cemetery and maintaining it in perpetuity and all of those kinds of things. So I hope at some point we'll have that.
Okay, do you wanna say any more now, or?
There are legal requirements,
Yeah.
and there are financial implications in terms of how the money has to be managed. But beyond that, there are issues with getting people to cut the grass. It's not easy. You have to cut around headstones. You have to deal with issues of people putting memorabilia on headstones and how you're gonna regulate that, because some people think it looks trashy, some people find it very sentimental. Then some people put battery-operated lights on the headstones.
Which is a problem with mowing.
Right, so there's that. Then you have to make sure that you have staff available for when people are buried, when there's a service. There are always challenges that people are not always buried where you think they're buried, and sometimes you think nobody's buried there, but somebody else is. And then there's that surprise. Then there's family members who fight over the plots that they have.
Sounds like there are more practical
Attorney,
problems
yeah,
than
there's-
do
legal
not come to
issues.
our public hearing.
But it's
And-
really
and-
nice.
No,
Staff's
And-
gonna reach out to the communities that have it.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
comment that the mayor made may be true, may not be true. I don't know where he got that from, but I'm not sold on that. But find out what Kilmarnock does, and I'm sure you, as an attorney, you deal with this all the time.
Well, and I
But-
get the
but-
problems.
But one
so,
thing you said, yeah, right.
You know, it's a grain of salt.
But make sure you got a fair evaluation here. We don't have a fair, I don't think we have a fair situation here. So make sure that we have a balanced argument. And I'm the one that brought up the fact I wanted a public hearing. A public hearing
right,
is what I asked for.
yes, yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Not
That's-
public comment, public hearing, advertised.
Yep.
Get people in here, and not just for the town, but for folks that have have family buried up there.
Right.
The whole,
So
the
that
whole
we
county.
get a fair evaluation of
Right.
what's going on.
And
I'm not hearing it tonight.
And I misspoke, that's what I meant, it was a public hearing, so that just like, here tonight, there can be a reasoned argument for and against.
Just to comment on something.
Yes,
Just,
Liability. I hear it constantly from attorneys and from, folks on this council. Everything we bring up, the first thing they ask, and the first thing is always negative. What is the liability involved? Maybe that's a good question, but 9 times out of 10, I just feel like what you're saying is you're looking for reasons not to do something,
exactly.
not to do something.
right.
And
Well,
maybe we shouldn't do
Yep.
this, and maybe I'll vote against it, but same token, I want a fair evaluation from the community. This is an emotional thing. This is not just, I mean,
One of
it's
the
something we
reasons
should,
that
we should
the
look at.
town has insurance is to protect against
Exactly.
that liability.
right,
So there are ways to circumvent that exposure.
Yep.
Liability is, I think, one of the least concerns.
Yeah.
Right.
In terms of a cemetery.
In this,
Pardon?
in regards to this.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you.
right.
Right.
All right. Planning Commission.
Planning Commission, two things that we talked about in March that I did not present at the March meeting. One is that Don Dreyer and Christy Anzavino updated the Urbana Street Sign project. That was something that we talked about last July, was the need for replacement street signs because many of them are broken or missing, et cetera. And so we have updated figures on that. Again, I know everything's about budget and money, and so I don't know what to say on that, but they've done a lot of good work updating that, and again, it would be great if at some point in time we could find the will and the way to make it happen. So I have passed that on to Garth for study. The other thing that was mentioned at that planning commission meeting was our interest in taking a look again at our short-term rental ordinance and trying to, make sure that it's current with state code at this time, and also to see if it's what the citizens of Urbana want it to be. And so I see tonight we have a little bit on that very same topic. So anyway, that is something that the Planning Commission wants to continue to look at.
Okay, and
Okay,
that
thank
is
you.
under new business, but,
Thank you.
all right, is that it?
Oh, one other thing. It's not exactly Planning Commission, but the Urbana Main Street Organization is hosting a walkabout on Tuesday, May 16th at 6 p.m., meeting at the Chesapeake Inn. And it's going to be an activity where we'll break people into groups, and they'll have guidance for what they're looking for, but they'll start at different places in the town, as though they were a visitor who was coming to the town for the first time. And they'll have a profile. Are they a boater? They'll start out at the marina if they're coming by boat. And there will be certain questions that we want them to discuss and look at. What is it like as a first-time visitor? What do people see? What do they like? What would they like to see? What's confusing? Those kinds of things, so that we can take that information and turn it again into some of our tourism planning. Okay, so if that's something you'd like to do, please talk to me or someone on town staff, and we'll get you RSVP'd for that.
What day is May 16th?
Tuesday, May 16th. 6 p.m., and we'll have light refreshments afterwards.
I think we should get Larry to do a ghost walk and tell people all the ghostly stories.
Ghost in Urbana.
That would be Jerry, right? Rise? Is Jerry a ghost maven?
I don't know.
All right, now for the elephant in the room, pool committee? Oh, no, it was poorly stated and I apologize.
Sure.
Come on, elephant.
I knew my ears were big and my nose was long, but not that heavy. Okay, at the pool committee meeting on April 24th, members of the committee examined the revised figures requested from our general contractor and the changes to the bathhouse and pool decking plan that would be necessitated to bring the cost closer to the $1.1 million that we have already approved, or council has already approved. So the building process and timelines are, at this point, the timeline remains as presented last month with an expected pool opening for the Memorial Day weekend of 2024. But the pool building itself is looking more and more basic as amenities are stripped away. However, the modified plans will allow future additions to the building to include features deleted at this time, such as a small attached snack bar and an office for the lifeguards. There are a few other things, roofs for the pump station.
equipment,
Yeah. One modification that was suggested by the builder was to lose the sun shelf on the pool itself, and that feature would save us about $7,000. However, the committee unanimously agreed that the sun shelf must be included. I mean, we've already gotten away from, we're not doing a kiddie pool, we're not gonna have a splash pad, we're not gonna have a diving board, unless someone comes up with money to pay for it, we're not gonna have a slide. So that only leaves the sun shelf as a family-friendly amenity of the pool, and we feel it's very important to keep that. At this point, that would put the $7,000 back in because they figured it would save us $7,000 if we took it out. So the revised cost estimate as presented, and keep in mind these are estimates and are responsibly on the high side, but there are uncounted factors that can and will change these figures in either direction, up or down. Labor charges include importing workers from more expensive metropolitan areas, and we are exploring the potential for local subcontractors to minimize these costs. And the hope is that if we can trim enough padding, we may be able to restore some of the amenities that have been removed from the plan at this point. The latest estimate presented trims the cost down to approximately $1.153 million, which is still $0.053 million above what we had anticipated. However, what we are looking to do, and we're hoping the council will do, is to approve an additional $60,000, and that would cover bringing that $7,000 for the sun shelf back in. So it would bring us up to a total of $1.16 million, and we would like you to agree to do that so that Garth can go ahead and sign the contract and move ahead immediately with the project before inflation expands more. And Marnie Hart has put together a presentation, and she will illustrate more of the details than I've just given. Thanks.
Lori, I think the TV went to sleep if it doesn't turn on when you
I don't
push
know
the.
how. This has been a very exciting meeting so far.
It can usually stay on all day. There should be that red button. If someone sees that red button, just push it. See if it wakes back up. There you go. Is it green?
She's waking up, I think. Martha, we might need some technical assistance over here. Oh, here we go, folks.
Ta-da.
Well, we've talked about a graveyard that I didn't know we had. Larry, I want the ghost tour. That's very intriguing. And now we're talking about the pool. So thank you all for coming tonight. We're excited to give an update. We'll get our slides up here in just a sec. I am Marnie Hart. I'm a resident. I live on the end of Kent Street. We joined this town March of 2022. COVID brought us here, and we fell in love with the community and intend to stay here until I'm hopefully maybe not in that graveyard. Maybe we'll figure out some other way what to do with me. But what we're here to talk to you guys about tonight is just as Barbara said, we have been spending a ton of time working with the contractors and the architects to try to bring total costs for the pool build and the surrounding facilities, the related facilities, down to the 1.1 million that was already authorized by council. Over the past few months, we have been trimming, Barbara mentioned, we've been trimming things off of the wish list, which is sad, right? Like, we all want the best possible solution for the town. but money matters. Money matters a lot to all of us as citizens. I don't want to pay a dime more in taxes to this town or Middlesex County. And I know a lot of you all sitting here tonight are in that same, have that same perspective as well. And so that's one of the reasons that I have, and I know the other members of the pool committee have worked so hard to try to bring these figures, these financial figures in order. Today we're about, the second proposal we got was about 27% over budget. I've got pictures that I'll show tonight of what 1.5 million would have bought us if we had that budget, but we have been able to bring the total cost down with a much more modest plan to 1.16, and I put a little bit extra in there just to make sure that we are being conservative. In line with what Barbara said, is like you're gonna have some potential costs up or down on any sort of construction project. Tonight, the ask that we will make is that council make a motion to authorize an additional $69,000 to enable us to sign a contract, which will then enable us to do things like look at local contractors, subcontractors. There's a lot of components of this project, and we would love to work with a contractor, and frankly, I would advise including language in the contractor that they will endeavor to do whatever they can to reduce costs and allow us to actually go and source some of the materials ourselves. If we can find a better product for a better price, why shouldn't we be able to use that? So that is the ask that we have for council tonight, and again, I thank you for the time. I would like to kick this conversation off with a reminder that we have not spent time on this project just for the fun of it. In June of 2021, 78% of respondents responded that they wanted a pool in this town. Now that means different things to different people, but 78% that's more than a small majority, folks. That's more than we have in Congress right now. That's a big deal. 78% of any group of people saying yes, we want something is a pretty big deal. This slide, this is a painful slide. As we look at our savings, as we look at the costs of goods and services, and it's a factor in this pool build. So if you look at, this is the annual inflation rates from 2013 to 2023. And if you look at the year, if you essentially look at the year the pool closed in 2019, we have approximately 20% increase in inflation. That's huge. So if you look at $1.1 million, the amount that we're authorized to spend here, that would be worth $1.32 million. And I share this again just to give context of the economic environment that we're in, but also what time can do here. We want to get the best price possible for the pool, but as we delay, the costs of everything are going to continue to go up. Now, I've done a lot of reading on the projections for 2023, 2024, and beyond, and inflation, the growth of the inflation rate is expected to normalize. It is not, however, expected to go into a period of essentially where your inflation rate goes down. Inflation rate will continue to go up. It will just go up at a smaller rate. So time is of the essence, Urbana. If we want a pool, we need to get to getting on this. If we don't want a pool, then we need to call it and move on to something else. Like Mary said, there's lots of other projects in this town, but if we want to do the pool, the time to do that is now. Isn't that pretty? It's so pretty. The design looks beautiful with a proposed not gazebo.
Cupola?
Cupola, yeah.
No, the little in the
Pergola.
yes. The pavilion. And that was our intent, to make sure that the color, the roof, all the materials were the same as on both structures. This is what $1.5 million looks like. She's fancy. She has the walkthrough in the center, which also gives us access to year-round bathrooms for the town. And it's just very decorative. I was thinking you could have like weddings out in Tabor Park. You could do lots of things with that. But that's $1.5 million. So we kept moving on. This is what $1.60 to $1.69 million will get us. And I want to note, it's only 5% over our initial budget. So when you look at the cost of inflation, that 20% number, we're not talking huge increase in ask. But again, what we're able to buy with the money that we have is pretty different. But this is the reality that we're in, and the reality that we're in is if we continue to wait, this is going to be even less or more modest than it is today. Barbara mentioned that we're building this to enable additional construction in the future. So this right here with the X on it, the covered area, is the pump house. We have talked to the contractor, and you actually don't need a cover on it. That is simply for like a visual decorative element. On the other side, we would also envision building out the lifeguard room, the snack bar, that sort of thing. What you still get with this is the bathrooms that will be available year-round in Tabor Park. That center area is a walkthrough to give folks access to that. There will be a gate where that gentleman with the blue shirt is standing. There will be a gate so that folks cannot get actually into the pool, so that there'll be appropriate security and safety measures in place with that. Competition-sized pool, and again, the sun shelf is built into this plan as well. Here's another, just another visual that we have here. This is even more illustrative of the additional design features that can be added in the future. All right, so here is the funding plan. When we came before council to get the original 1.1 approved, we said, all right, well, how the heck are we going to pay for this thing? And so the original funding plan that we had was substantially similar to this, although we had fundraising and donation at $100,000 versus $169,000. So one of the concerns that folks have voiced is I don't want any special assessments. I don't want my taxes to go up. I have in the appendix here included a slide that we presented to council originally, and this walks through the various options that we did look at. Option one, is which the one that we ended up going with, was to authorize us to use Tabor Park funds and a mixture of other items. Option two was borrow more funds from a commercial organization, so think bigger loan. And then option three was to apply a special assessment to town residents. That one got uniformly ixnayed by all of the members of council at the time, and I think we got a pretty robust reaction from the members of the town that were in that meeting as well. And so it was definitely something that we did not seriously consider at any point for the funding of this pool. Back to this slide, again, we have the additional 69 added to the budget. That in addition to the sale of charter membership, CARES, and a loan will get us to the total build costs that we envision now at this time for the pool and the associated facilities. One thing to note, fundraising. We haven't brought in a ton of money. We've got one of the things we're looking at doing is selling bricks, decorative bricks, to go around the pool in different places. We had talked about a flagpole and maybe doing a surround on that with some of those bricks here recently. I intend to donate money to this project from my family. I will not give a dime in donations until I know that there is a contract signed and shovels are going into the ground. And so although we have not gotten a huge amount of donations, people have expressed interest in contributing to this. And I think the thing that we need to do is like really show folks that we're committed to moving forward before we ask people to really and full honestly open up their wallets and start making donations and writing checks for us. So that's the meat and potatoes of what we wanted to share with you all today. Next steps again is I would love to ask council to make a motion to move forward with the authorization of the additional funds, and then the pool committee, if that happens, the pool committee will continue to work with the contractor to minimize any expense than we can as part of this project. We're looking at every option. Like I said, there's some things that we have to do by law. Beth had a great idea actually of can you get like a prefab or a building that you could lift and put in place in the as sort of the bathhouse. you just can't do some of those things. Some of the things that we would like to do that seem practical and pragmatic, you can't do because of the regulations. Things like the number of bathrooms, things like the space between stalls. All of these are things you have to think about ADA compliance, and I'm not an expert in any of that. But we've hired experts to advise on that so that we build this thing right. And everyone's favorite word tonight, liability, that we're not setting ourselves up for undue or unnecessary liability. You know, someone gets injured or otherwise, discriminatory practices, et cetera. But we will go out and we will look at things. I've done a number of rehabs and houses. I look at the list of building components, and we see the price of the vanities, or we see the price of the toilet. Well, I know what I can buy on Lowe's.com, and so you bet your butt that we'll be really leaning into those things as well and working to reduce the cost on that front as well. So that's what I have tonight. I'd love to sort of open things up for questions, comments. Yep.
What is the sun shelf?
Sun shelf is a, so you've got the pool. The pool is, we're not going to have, oop,
On the side.
Outside.
basically it's a wading pool, I would say. It's a very shallow space where you can sit with your babies and play with them in the water. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a component of the pool that's a very family-friendly component. The pool that we have, another one of the features that we won't have, but like I'm this focus on the positive elements that we are getting is it is a competition-sized pool. It's not going to have a deep end, so I wish we could have a diving board and a deep end. That would be fantastic. I have some trick dives that I'd love to teach my son, but it's not going to happen with the money that we have. And so the sun shelf is one of the things that we want to keep in the proposal for the kids. Yep.
What was the price between the first photo and that one again?
1.5 million,
Uh-huh.
1.160 to 69.
340,000.
So that first picture, that building, a $4 million building?
No.
No.
400,000,
340
Yeah,
something.
I asked that question too, because I think the words that came out of my mouth were, sir, I could go to Home Depot and buy a shed that's fancier than that. The cost breakdown is actually the site work, so all the prep, backfilling the existing pool, bulldozing the existing buildings, making sure things are graded appropriately and rain runoff and that's almost $300,000.
Right.
That's,
There's another distinction in that you can't really assess it here, but the paved apron around this pool is 12 feet, on the other one it was 15. And so
But
that's,
everything she's talking about, you have to do regardless of what building you build.
yeah.
right,
Right.
yeah,
That-
but,
right.
I mean, that's another, the building size is like 50% and the concrete apron around it is significantly smaller.
Yeah.
What's the square footage of that building there? Not the size, just the square footage.
Is it on here? Can y'all see that? The numbers are there.
I think it's like 800 square feet or something.
558 enclosed, and then it's got 266 for the pump shelf roof.
Five, what?
So it's.
About
it's
600,
600
yeah.
square feet.
600 square feet.
No, 600.
So the difference in the money, from what I understand, is not only just the building, we lost the kiddie pool, is that what I'm understanding too?
That's,
Yeah.
No.
yeah.
Well, it's concrete and, the first one didn't have a kiddie pool.
Why not do a kiddie pool? I mean, pools for the kids, why aren't we gonna have a place for the kids?
That's what the sun
It's
shelf
another
says.
$100,000. They don't do kiddie pools anymore.
Yeah.
Well,
But the main cost to fully answer your question is the that 300,000 I mentioned is basically for any size building that we build, and then the other big component is the actual pool build itself. That's just under 450. So the
So you got that little shelter, and how you gonna keep anybody from getting it? I don't see a barrier or rope or.
there would be a buoy line there that would go there to keep the partition, and then that would obviously be
Or
some
like a net or something?
like the line with the buoys on there, like they have in most pools.
And
like 12 inches probably.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, okay.
to about three and a half.
I've got two grandchildren and another one on the way, and I don't think I want them swimming in the big pool.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, exactly.
Well, the
They're
big
not
pool's
gonna
only
be in
5
the
feet.
pool without you being
Yeah,
there with
but
them anyway.
I can't swim a lick, so I'm not even getting in it.
Yeah. Oh, you,
Sunshine
I think you're taller than
Cruise,
3.5 feet.
can't swim.
You can stand up at any part in the pool.
Yeah, it's not gonna be that deep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, one thing that is very good as a safety, technique is to teach young children, toddlers, that if they land in a pool like that, to flip on their backs. And that is very, very important, to prevent drowning.
Yeah. Well, they're doing swimming lessons. I can't swim.
Well, they
Perhaps
hopefully
you
will
should
be
take
able
a
to take
few
swim lessons in Urbana's pool here pretty quickly.
I can teach you to flip on your back.
Marty, will the size of the pool fit the regulations for the swim teams in the county?
Yes, sir. That was a core
Right.
thing that we wanted to be able to
It's
deliver.
a 6-lane, 25-yard pool. Over the progression of these things, we've gone from a grand design when it was first in place by LPDA back in 2019, where it had a, what do they call it, a beach entry and a mushroom water feature and, 6-lane, 25-meter pool, which for outdoor pools is a better regulation. In the high schools, for the competition, they swim 25-yard competitions in the school year, but any AAU course is either a short course 25-meter or a 50-meter pool. And so as reality hit and we, started getting numbers, all of these things have, transitioned to a smaller and smaller package. But the one thing that we didn't want to compromise, because it really shuts off future uses of the pool, was to not have something that could be used in a swim team.
So it's bigger than Deltaville.
Well, Deltaville, yeah, it is bigger than Deltaville, but Deltaville has a rounded end. So the people in the middle lanes would swim farther than the outer lanes, and handicapping is not usually something you do in swimming.
It'd be a 25-meter pool or a 50-meter pool, what's that,
25.
25?
You can do
25 meter or
25 yards.
25 yards.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
what I thought you said.
You can do flip turns in it and all that.
Right, and the previous pool, I think, was only about 34 inches deep, and that's considered a head bonking hazard under current regulations. This one is 42 inches, which is the minimal that you can have for safe flip turns according to code.
So when you come down the sun shelf, which is really for wheelchair entry too,
I think we're gonna have that same thing for wheelchairs, the hydraulic thing that,
Okay.
It's required.
yeah, the chairlift.
they
required.
could be both.
Yes.
So they come down that sun shelf and it gets deeper, and as it goes into the regular pool, that water flows into the
No,
pool.
the sun shelf is, that would be a beach entry.
Okay,
and
that's a beach
That's gone.
Okay.
The sun shelf is a rectangle that is a uniform, my understanding, uniform depth to a drop-off, a rope across at the drop-off, so that you've essentially got the kiddie pool built into the regular pool.
Okay, all right, then I misunderstood.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Back to the fundraising.
Yes.
There's a whole line item about CARES. What is CARES?
COVID money.
That was the COVID money from the federal
really?
government.
Okay, what has ever happened to, the foundation with Wayne Jesse and talking to those people?
That's still potentially in play.
Well-
And so that's, part of fundraising is not only, generous people like Marnie just giving money.
I said it on the record.
What?
I said it on the record.
Yeah.
If we
and that's
sign
why
the
I repeated it.
contract.
Once said and repeated, then it's sort of
That's
locked
the
in. I
thing.
think.
Don't tell Sean.
I just didn't know,
But,
I mean,
yeah.
we've heard no more about it, and I don't know that we've
Yes,
even talked
and-
anymore to Wayne about it, to even
We
get
haven't
on
applied for it.
that
Yeah,
radar.
we have not applied for it, but it's still,
Are we on the
talking
radar
about-
for them?
You talking about the
Yes.
Riverview thing?
yeah,
Put
yeah,
on the radar.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's due tomorrow at 4:30.
Not all. Yeah.
Andy?
Wait a minute, it's due tomorrow at 4:30, meaning that we have to be applied for it by then?
Yes,
Yeah, it's gotta be in by 4:30 tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
yeah.
Oh,
Well,
addition to carrying
oh,
out
sounds
everything
like we
that's
missed that
tangible,
one.
The last time I was at council, I heard about this, and I had a conversation with the state previously about the marina. And I started thinking about it, and I started thinking about the town marina. You know, they offer you grant money for, bathrooms and things of that nature, and if you, for transients and what have you. So, I called up the state, and I said, well, can we bathe and sunbathe in a pool? You know, we don't have a pool. Bottom line is they want things that are attracting transients to come into your town,
Right.
okay? So, my question, and I haven't gotten it back yet, is how can we get some, maybe they can pay for the bathrooms, something, so that, so the ultimate goal would be, you bring a transient, then you have to give them a golden pass to use the pool. But it helps tourism, so, you know, that, if they can help get grant money for that, I don't know if that's ever been, discussed or,
Yeah, and
you know, a combination between the town marina and boat park, you know, marina, if we can draw in tourism and get some grant money for that.
there have been grants that have shown up on the radar. The most recent one, Christie and I were looking at it, was one that the minimum population within a certain radius was 30,000 people. We don't have that in the county. So,
Well, so, the way I understand it works is, okay, if I wanna put in a new sanitation pump system and I put it in, we have to pay for it, and then you apply for it, and then they give you a percentage back.
Right.
So, this can happen after the fact, is my point.
yes.
So, Marty told me to stop exploring it, but I think it's a viable thing.
No.
Andy and anyone
never
else
stop.
interested in looking in grants or helping with fundraising, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the things I want to do personally. Once we get this thing, you know, signed and ready to go, I don't have any personal investment in, you know, working with managing the contractors or that. I can write and I can use a computer and I can do that from Urbana or Richmond or DC or wherever I go for my day job. And that's one of the things I want to put some time into.
We've had a number of transients in our 1 year say, you know, it'd be nice if we had a pool. We love coming here, but we can't come that weekend because our children will be with us and we have to have a pool.
Right.
So, that we quickly concluded the last thing that we wanna do is have a pool at the marina. I mean, I don't want any above ground pool in the backyard or anything like that. We've explored it and we're like, nah. So, if we could somehow or another have, you know, convince them to get on a short bike ride, go to the park and enjoy it, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
If we can get grant money,
Love it.
we'll try. I mean, no promises, but I didn't know if that had been explored, but I made a couple calls on it.
Love that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And that's the whole purpose of this. I think most of the people in this room remember when we had a pool that was open and functional. The truth is that that pool was condemned and not worth repairing in terms of all kinds of things that I'd be happy to show you the study, okay? And so that was a no-go for something like that. And then it becomes a decision of quality of life of the residents, attracting new residents. As this population ages out, I mean, certainly I won't, but other people in here might actually get older and leave one way or another. But that being said, the people that you know, buy my house or Beth's house or anybody else's, you want that, the goal is to have it so that it's maybe a family that, you know, a family, rather than retirees or Airbnbs, and that those people will pick this town because we have amenities like a golf cart community and a pool that the kids can ride to and those sorts of things. And that's the whole purpose for doing this. And this project, if it weren't for CARES money and the Tabor Fund, which was used for the original pool, this thing was dead in the water. There's no question about it, because there was no way, well, I shouldn't say no way, but I think it's unrealistic to try to get even the people within a 10-mile radius or 15-mile radius to come up with $1.1 million to build this pool. But when we have a nest egg of basically $800,000 from those two sources, then all of a sudden we've got a running start, and it's not easy. But the whole premise of this is that the community has shown consistently that we want a pool, and our charge was to figure out some way to get that done without raising taxes and without burdening the town with an undue amount of debt, so that we ended up in a spiral where we would be in trouble. And CARES and the Tabor Fund allowed us to do that so that we've got a chance. But it's gonna be the model that virtually every other community has, which is we're gonna provide access, but on an ongoing basis, the community at large, this part of the county is gonna need to support this thing on a regular basis because that's what's gonna fund the ongoing costs. That's the only way it's gonna fly. And we can get it started, but we depend on not only donations in the short run to get it built, or charter memberships, but we're also gonna depend on people being willing to join and be members and you know, have fundraisers. It's gonna, I can see the pool committee going on a regular basis just for the fact that we're gonna need some arm of the local government to be an ongoing vigilant group to make sure this thing is funded in the long run.
And I do, like, Bill, one of the things we have talked about in previous conversations is working with Middlesex County on that too, on the run the engine costs. We were building this thing independently. We want to have sort of full executive control over it in the town. But like the fact of the matter is we're not on an island by ourselves. And Middlesex County has a little bit deeper pockets than us. And we have a vested interest in making sure that all of our kids know how to swim. And frankly, in a water community, have access to water in those hot and horrible July and August days. So that's another thing we need to look at for those run the engine costs as well.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
could I recommend that we move to public comment?
Yeah.
Because we're not able to record any of this discussion
Yep, okay,
unless they're at the mic.
yep, okay. Let's do that. I think we've covered this pretty well.
Okay.
We're gonna put off any kind of vote until after public comment so that we get a chance to hear what everybody has to say. And so now let's start with Mr. A.B. Gravatt.
All right, first thing is, I made a whole bunch of notes, and then I find that I've only got 3 minutes, so I'll have to be real quick. First, I want to say to y'all talking about the DMV, I've used that DMV. I tell everybody down where I work to come here to use that DMV. I tell people over in Kilmarnock to come over here, because if you go to Kilmarnock, you can stand in line for 10 minutes, and you can come here and spend 5 seconds. So I just want to let you know that we trying to help
Spread-
get the
well, keep it up.
DMV going.
Keep it up, AB.
Thank you, AB.
First thing is, I've had a lot of, I'm 79, I've spent 50-some years working in maintenance, O&M, building complexes, you name it. And the first thing is that pole that says 78%, you could gear, just like all the poles, you can gear any pole to get the results that you want. And the survey that they sent out just asked people if they wanted a pool. Didn't say anything about how they would go do it and how they go fund it. And they said, do you want a pool? So you get 78% people saying yes, but they really don't know what they're saying yes to. The next thing is, I'm dead set against you using the Talbot Fund for any funds. They should not use that money. That money was there for a purpose, and it's there to fund it. Bill has told me, and Golf has said, well, we're still gonna take care of all the activities that are here, and that you're gonna pay the Talbot Fund back. My experience on working a bunch of these things in the service, it never gets paid back. And then if you use it once, 3 years from now, something's gonna come up, and you're gonna say, oh, we'll just use the fund again. And the next thing you're gonna know, you're not gonna have a fund. Now, I'm gonna be dead, most, I won't be
We're all going
around.
to that graveyard.
Huh? I won't be around, and I'm going to Arlington to be join Diane. But, I don't want you doing it. And, so, I'm sure the board's already decided what they're gonna do, but I wanna be on the record for saying there's a bunch of us in town that do not think you should use that fund. The next one is, you got charter memberships, 200,000. What is the definition of a charter membership?
It's It is a membership to the pool for the lifetime of this pool, $12,000 upfront cost. It goes with the property.
So I'm at Lansing and my grandkids come and we go to use that pool, I gotta pay $12,000 to use the pool?
No,
One time.
that's a charter member.
But that's a charter membership.
Yeah, well,
But no.
I'm not gonna live long enough.
No,
to
no,
do
no.
that.
Well, yeah, the fees, I'll explain the fees to you.
Okay.
To
All right,
not take up your time.
is there a annual or a seasonal membership that?
Absolutely. And a day fee.
Huh?
And a day fee.
And a day, and what does that cost? Cause nobody's ever said,
It's been published, $5 per person in town, $15 for family pass.
for the summer,
Time's up.
No, no,
For the day.
day.
$5 every day.
You can buy a seasonal pass.
You also get passes.
Oh,
Yeah,
what's
you
this?
get- You get certain passes, free, what, three
Right.
per year, free. If you've used those up, you can buy an in-town seasonal pass, which is much less than your $5.
Yeah.
Okay,
And that if you choose to do a charter membership, you never pay to use it, you've already paid it up front, and that goes with the sale of your house. Whoever buys your house also gets the charter, so it's.
Are you done, AB?
selling
Because
point.
it's time to move on.
Yeah.
I'm done, all right.
Yeah.
The other
I
thing
can,
is
I
that,
can drop off a copy.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll get you that
two
information.
more quick things,
Time's up.
quick things. All the amenities and chairs and everything else that goes around the pool, I didn't see anything in the budget for that. And then second, what contingency fund that you're gonna have invest to take care of the emergencies in 5, 10, 15, and 20 years?
That's gonna be the role of the people that do the fundraising, is to start backing money up.
Well, you're gonna need it.
All right, William Mayo.
Thanks, AB.
I'm William Mayo, 320 Ravhack Avenue. I just want to bring up what you have already brought up about our signs in our streets. They're terrible. Some of them don't even have any signs at all. And we don't need expensive signs, just some aluminum that reflects at nighttime when people come in, they know where they're going.
What we got.
Yep, you got it. Martha Loeb.
Okay, a lot of my concerns have been addressed here, and I appreciate it. I really appreciate what the committee has done and all the hard work. That's obvious, and it's great. But I also want to remind people, when we came here 37 years ago, our pool had a high dive, a low dive, and a curved slide. It was filled all the time with children of all ages, 2 to 92. They played sharks and minnows for hours. Marco Polo, taught each other how to do flips off the diving boards, swan dives, jackknives, and more. It was a delight and no one got hurt. We can't do that, I get it. This pool to me is kind of boring though. I don't think we need a swimming pool that is made for competition swim. I just don't. I think we need a fun pool for our town that will attract all kinds of people and that you can dive in. And you can, where'd you go? And you can teach your kids. That's what I want to see. I want to have that fun back. And I just don't think we're getting it. I also am really worried about all the things that this new 1.1 is not covering. They were very specific in what is not being covered that we're still going to have to pay for. So it's going to be plenty more than the 1.169. Plenty more. And we got to get prepared for that. And lastly, y'all got to remember, a lot of members of this town do not have the deep pockets. They're worried about where they're going to pay, how they're going to pay their next water bill. And y'all are asking them to give money or donate, or their taxes are going to increase. But what in this time with the inflation and everything that's going on, what are you going to tell them to cut out of their personal budget so they can pay for this? It's really hard. We need a pool. We all want a pool. I just think this one is just way too darn expensive.
Here.
Here.
Helen Chandler.
I'm Helen Chandler, 440 Tabor Lane. I'm a mermaid. When I came here, one of the selling points of Urbana was the swimming pool and tennis courts. Well, the tennis courts were pathetic. The pool was fabulous. It wasn't glorified, but it was a pool. My daughters and family members, we all came and we all swam. It's amazing to me that this is a water community and the number of people who do not swim, even though they may be watermen. We need classes for children and adults, and we need a pool. I've also paid my $12,000,
Thank you very much.
and please, pool.
Thank you. Andy, are you talking or is Amy?
All right, triple M. Andy Anderson, 370 Rappahannock Avenue. Like to address a few things. First off, please don't be offended about my comments about the cemetery, but that cemetery may as well be in North Carolina as far as I'm concerned. It's not in town, and the fact that we're entertaining it is offensive to me as a taxpayer. Don't let people in this community persuade you unless they are a tax-paying entity. That is not in town, and we have no business entertaining it, independent of any of the merits that the attorney said. You're talking about liability, taking over a piece of property. Until you annex that part of town, don't even entertain it. I find it offensive. It has nothing to do with deceased people or cemetery, but it's not in town, don't entertain it. Secondly, somebody mentioned about, Mary, I think you mentioned something about meeting about short-term rentals. You know, I know that's a constant debate. I also, I mean, there's pluses and minuses, I get it.
Absolutely.
One thing that's a component of that, though, is you have to also consider how many houses in town are dormant a majority of the time because people are weekenders. I was a weekender for many years, and I was not a contributor. We were not a contributor on a lot of times because we weren't here. So the good thing about short-term rentals, it's people coming into town and spending money in town, which is important, just like the DMV thing. So we are in a unique situation. Before we really assess how many people are short-term rentals, assess how many people aren't here half the time and spending money in town. So it's a balance because I think we all tend to find ourselves in a vacuum as far as where is everybody today. Last comment, back to the pool. I thought it was a great presentation. The last thing I have to mention is, you know, the bathrooms are great. I don't understand why they need to be 365, 24/7. Why not making them seasonal? Because it's going to be arts in the park. It's going to be farmer's market. It's going to be obviously swimming. It only needs to be used in the warm months. I don't think anybody's going to go in there and say, I need a Christmas poop. I really don't think they're going to do it. So just make it seasonal. If you want to make it air conditioned and heated later, that's something you can add. Just make it a very basic open air bathroom so that people can use it when there's a concert, their farmer's market, or swimming. That's my last comment.
Katie Wilson.
Good evening. Apologies for walking in late. Busy working mom here. 200 Cross Street. My family and I, Shannon, Thomas, and Robbie, are here just representing some of the younger families in town and our opinions about the pool. And just to save time, I typed up all the different quotes from all. I've talked to about 8 or 9 people in the last 2 days, just so you can read it at your leisure. But from our perspective, Robbie and I moved to town back in the fall of 2003, almost 10 years ago, when I was pregnant with this one in the turquoise. When we toured it now home, one of the main selling features was its access and close proximity to the pool and the Urbana playground. At the time, I was pregnant with Shannon and was excited to provide her with the nostalgic kind of childhood I had growing up in a neighborhood with lots of kids, middle-aged and elderly people, kind of like this community, and it was close to a community pool. Unfortunately, once we moved into Urbana, we found a younger crowd was few and far between. Although we still love Urbana as our neighbors are like second parents, and everyone, especially the older crowd, seemed to welcome our young family with open arms. Being here without anything to really attract younger couples and families to want to come and stay in Urbana was difficult for us to feel a real sense of community and belonging and want to remain in town. Then ironically, when COVID hit, many younger families moved to town and we began to form these friendships and bonds that we were missing when we moved in. So there's a silver lining. Thinking back to my own childhood, some of my fondest memories were biking with friends around my suburban neighborhood and countless summer days at our community pool. Those memories I still hold near and dear to my heart and was hoping to recreate that kind of nostalgia living in Urbana with our 2 young kids. My husband always remembers and wishes that he could have been one of those kids in town as he grew up in a farm in Saluda, and always remembers the kids biking around and going to the pool. Thinking back to when we purchased our home, if Urbana had not had the playground and community pool as it does and did, I honestly believe we would have chosen to buy a house and raise our family elsewhere. Those 2 features were a huge draw for me as a young mom. Urbana has and had such a unique classic Mayberry charm and appeal. However, we greatly miss some of the staples of Urbana, namely the drugstore, soda fountain counter, Mojo's, and the community pool. Our hope and wish are that the community appeal will return with the construction and opening of a new pool. However basic or complex it is, hopefully we can make it, functional and fun and add on as time goes on, in order to create welcoming community spaces in a nearby Tabor Park. And to Andy's comment about the bathrooms year-round, as a mom, even though we live 2 blocks from the park, sometimes you don't make it home. So having at least maybe a key code access for town residents or something that you can plug in so you can go to the bathroom with your toddler or learning to potty train kid is very, very nice. And maybe just have some sort of way to manage it for people in town versus everybody. So if you guys would like a copy of this, I made copies for everybody, and thank you for your time. And we're gonna dip out because I get to bed.
Thank you for your time.
All right, that ends the public comment. In response, we've talked about a lot of this. The one thing, when it comes to the public bathrooms, the design we have gives us the flexibility to do that or not do that, in that it's got a gate on either side, and that's one of those things we'll judge over time based on staffing and really how it's used or abused, so that we can cut it off from public access if we find that people are getting into trouble there, or we can give it public access if everybody is doing the right thing. But the design is such that that can happen. Roy,
Can I make a public comment?
please,
I am about.
as a resident.
I'm about to be the newest resident of Urbana. Speaking in that capacity, not as a staffer, not as anything else. This town spent $30,000 50 years ago to build a pool. Those days are gone. And we're looking at $1 million for this pool. The difficulty in paying for it has been immense, trying to figure out how to get it. The original money that came out of the Tabor Trust, it paid for this thing, and it did. I mean, I can go back and show you the minutes that shows you where it came out of the Tabor Trust. There's a discussion as to whether it was corpus or income or anything like that. But the money came out of the Tabor Trust to pay for that damn thing. At the same time, if I had been a resident for the last 40 years, I would be livid with town council for not using that money for what it was intended to. It was put in there not to sit there and make interest payments. It was to provide benefits for the town people, like a pool, a health center, or something like that. It wasn't just to sit there and accumulate. And as I say, if I had been a resident who could speak like this, I would say you guys have done a bad job in not shepherding that money where it was supposed to go. And I know you get a pot of money, you're not supposed to spend the principal, you've inherited money, that's great, you just live off the principal. Well, that's not what this money was for. This money was for doing it, and it was not to run the town government. We can't invade that to say, okay, we got a shortfall because we don't have enough taxes. That's not what this money's for, and nobody has said that it's for that. So, I just think you people ought to really consider what the value is to the town and what you're gonna leave going forward. Mr. Kravitz says he's 79, he's not gonna live much longer. I'm just a couple of years later, less than that. I'm still working, I'm still, showing up every day, and, I'm really tired of hearing, oh, we got fixed income. Well, if you got fixed income, augment it. I'm sorry, but.
Yeah, is it 3 minutes?
But under that thing,
Totally offended.
Yeah.
the last 20 years, they would have wiped out that entire fund.
It's not a cross discussion, sorry, but moving on. In response, as an announcement to the council, I've asked the person who oversees the Tabor Fund at Davenport to come talk to us about diversification of the funds so that we may get a higher appreciation going forward, because interest rates are better. There's some cash there that could be invested because we're not touching it, that we should be able to get at least 4% on, and what's that?
We already had a meeting where he told us stuff like that.
Well, there's cash there. The way it's set up is you can reinvest dividends
Okay.
and capital gains, but the money that's there, we need to decide what we want to do with. And so he's going to give us some suggestions and make suggestions, because within that body of funds, we can move things without any cost to us to diversify what we have there, so that we can get an appreciation of those funds at a rate greater than just that one fund, as well as income potential. All right. Moving on, I think we've had that discussion. Public comment is over, so we're to the point where I guess it's fish or cut bait.
Well, I'll make a motion.
I have a couple comments. Are you talking about?
Well, if after the motion, we can have a comment period as to how you feel about what's going on.
Motion, a second, then discussion.
Then discussion.
Then discussion.
Okay?
I'm gonna make a motion to approve the proposal for the pool construction at 1.169 million. That includes the 69,000 that the pool committee feels that we need for a buffer.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, now discussion.
I have two things that really bother me about the pool. I've said it 1,000 times, I'm all for a pool. Everybody wants a pool. I totally agree with Martha. All the ducks are going into a competition pool. Nobody has any clue how many people will be on a swim team. So to me, it's the pool is for the people and the children who basically will be going there. So I think that's really important. I'm also extremely concerned about Heiser, the contractor, the 18 clarifications that we do not include. It says we do not include, which could reach at least a couple of $100,000, if not more. And they've laid out a couple of them. Some certain dirt, 34,000, have to add another 34,000. It goes on and on and on. And one of the most important things that I have not heard one word about are the maintenance costs for this pool. I heard 6 months ago, before I got on council, they estimated it would be between $80,000 to $100,000 a year. That's a lot of money, but nobody has a clue. Nobody has mentioned anything about maintenance costs, and these, I think, are incredibly important, the maintenance costs for this project. And I'm hearing nothing about it, and I, quite frankly, I can't stand behind something when there's so many clarifications that are not included in this that we're gonna need, and we don't know what the maintenance costs are. And I think they think it'll take them 5 months to put the pool in, to build this. So we have 6 or 7 months to get this thing right, and I think trying to shove it through now is plain and simple, just stupid.
Well,
That's what I have to say.
Why are we at a rush to get this done?
I'll respond to both of those. One, this is a project that's been going on since 2019. I would hardly consider that to be a rush to begin with.
No, but I mean-
And it has pared down working with what we have been able to come up with. When it comes to a competition pool versus a non-competition pool, if you cut this down so that it's the same size as Urbana Harbor, for example, something like that,
Or
then
Deltaville.
well, in either case, Deltaville is looking for a place to have swim meets, okay?
No,
And
yeah,
that-
I'm not talking
and
about
at this point, I understand, but you automatically limit yourself as to what you can use the pool for. We're already limited in that we don't have a diving section. We're already limited in that we, don't have a kiddie pool or a water feature or a slide. Those things are already limits. And the maintenance cost for something that's 5 yards shorter is not gonna be significantly different for the cost of what it is to have a competition pool. We already cut it down from 25 meters to 25 yards so that we would have something that people could still have competitions in. And the maintenance costs, a couple of things there. One, we have a history of what it used to cost us. We know that that's been inflated. Two, multiple times, I have personally mentioned to this council and to the public that Essex County budgets for $78,000 a year as part of their fee structure, and they charge almost nothing for the public to go to that pool. Three,
Huge
Garth has
difference in
done.
population.
Right, but they're not, the difference is that they're paying that for the pool and they're not taking anything in for that pool because it's open to the public for $2, okay? And in talking to the director of that pool, if a person shows up in their equivalent to Miss Pearl, they just let them go in because they know that they're struggling to get there in the first place. So that is a totally county subsidized pool. Three, Garth has talked to a pool company and your figure of $80,000 is right on spot with what it's gonna cost us to do that. And that's why I said, even at the beginning of this discussion, that for us to have this pool to function, we have to have a commitment by this community and the people around this community to pay something on an annual basis and to develop a buffer. Otherwise, it's not gonna fly. But the question is whether we're gonna try that or whether we're not gonna try that. Because I would rather, at this point, after all we've been through over, at this point, 4+ years, I'd rather be the person that said, let's give this a go and get this pool in the ground and then work on sustaining it rather than the guy that killed the pool. So I can tell you, if it's not going forward, at this point, we're dead in the water. It's not going forward. We need to either move with it or we need to scrap it and put the money someplace else.
Well, I don't agree with that. I don't
But
think
would it-
we
would
need
it-
to scrap it.
One month would make that much of a difference?
And what are you gonna do in the 1 month?
I would like for the public to look at all this with the bathrooms. Why do we have to have heating and air conditioning?
That's required by law.
Right, when it.
Bathrooms, the
Heating and air
stalls,
conditioning is required by law.
not
No.
the bathroom. You said the bathroom, the toilets
I
and
said the
stuff.
heating. well, no.
Okay.
Right,
I'm
And that
saying
is to minimize mold, mildew,
to keep a healthy building.
right.
A dehumidifier from Lowe's.
I just think there's a lot of things.
DEQ may not.
But the point there is that you're looking at cutting $14,000.
It adds up.
And if I may remind you, in the discussions that we've had, one of the things that Marnie was quick to point out is that we have asked the contractor to work with local people and to try to cut down on individual items. So this is the new cap that we're working from. And the question is, are we gonna go forward?
Well, if we sign a contract to raise the money, why can't we get those contractors first and find out what the cost is gonna be? I mean, it looks to
Well,
me like.
we already
there's a
have the
lot.
contractor.
You hire a
Like everything's
contractor.
been done backwards here.
I understand that. I'm
She's a
talking about all your
class A.
No, you don't.
subcontractors.
Yes, she does.
Jesus
She's a
Christ.
Class A contractor.
No, don't throw that out there. All right, so anyway.
So we're gonna
what I'm
buy,
telling you
she's a
is
contractor, and
what
we're
I'm
gonna buy
saying is the one
dehumidifiers from Lowe's.
Yes. Like the cement guy, I called him today. Asked him how much is cement right now, thickness, whatever. And, we've gotta get prices from local people.
And
We're
that's-
doing that.
That's what we're doing.
And I think the lumber should be bought from a local lumberyard.
We're trying to do that.
Yes,
Okay.
that's all part of the plan.
But
You-
is there
you've been on
any
the-
guarantee that you're gonna do
Sandy,
that?
you've been on the committee. You come to the meetings. You're hearing what we're doing.
Yeah, I haven't liked a lot of it.
Well,
Sandy,
it's not all about you.
No, it's not all about you, Garth, and I'm sorry.
Stop being a bully, Card.
folks,
Yeah.
this,
Oh, this
guys,
is
guys
very
and gals,
unethical.
guys and gals, we're here for the community.
Right.
Sandy, I totally hear you. I mean, and for me, like, listen, I have made a career out of negotiating contracts. And there's a way that you do these things that's optimal and ideal, and then there's the reality of the situation that we're in.
All right, the only
And-
other thing that I really have a hard time with is what's available for little children, young children. 6 months old, year old, going to the pool. We have no kiddie pool. It's all about the competition pool. It's not really the way I see it, unless y'all can show me something I don't know. It's all about that, swim teams.
That's
I
the
want to
Sun
see something for the little children, other than this little teeny weeny shelf going up. I don't get that. Why are we not building something that the children really can use?
I hear you on that second part. Let me come to back that. On the part of working with the local contractors, you and I have a concrete guy that we both think very,
I talked to him this morning.
very highly of. And that's why my recommendation would be to council, and Andrea, you could jump in on this as well, is in the contract with the contractor, we include language that enables us to go in and do the sourcing and the specific buying that you're talking about. I would actually. Perfect.
Are we gonna have like change order fees every time we do something?
No, and
All
that's one of the things we really have to watch as well, is I would love to take is there any, we have what we have, right? I am on the same page with like making this as friendly as possible for families. So I would love to take that as an action item. We clearly cannot commit to that with sort of the budget and what we know at this point. But I would like to explore that further. And frankly, if we can find some savings from the concrete or from lumber costs from buying local or whatever, put that as the first priority to bring back in the plan. That would be my recommendation on that. Sorry to jump up, just wanted to.
But could we build a concrete, cinder block structure, put, fur it out, put vinyl siding on it, the inside is block wall, and that's your bathroom, you paint it, you put your toilets in there, we don't need fancy.
I can't comment on that because there's like Gar said or somebody said, there's a lot of the stuff that's built on the regulation.
I cannot believe you can't have a bathhouse out of concrete block.
And well, on that point, we did ask that. We specifically asked the contractor. Bill, I don't know the specifics of it. If you do, jump in.
What he said was that with the current cost of concrete blocks and the masons to put it up, it was less costly to do
Well,
stick built.
you know, Mike Jolly told me today that would be the best way to go, in his opinion.
Yeah.
So, and I think he knows.
May
I make a simple
All right.
clarification, just a quick clarification? When we're talking about a competition pool and a sun shelf, and talking about the kids not having any place to enjoy the pool, no, they have access to the entire pool, not just the sun shelf. So that is not eliminating children, families from having fun in the pool. They get to use the entire pool except when the team is using it. That's the only time that makes a
That sun
difference.
shelf is about the same size as what the old kiddie pool is.
Okay.
And if they're that young, they're gonna have to have parents, somebody carrying them.
Exactly.
Somebody's gonna be with them.
Anyhow, all right. Any other comments?
Well, one, I want to remind you that this creates jobs. Lifeguards, managers. Two, I want to remind you, my grandson including, was on the Deltaville Sharks team this summer. Finally, fundraising. We're gonna have to be very adept in fundraising. Not getting in one another's way, and having somebody that is going at this without everybody else trying to tell them how to do it, I think. Judy Mansfield, maybe you ought to go talk to her. She raised $90,000 in, what, 3 months?
Yeah.
But, you know, of course, I know there may be reasons for that, but maybe we ought to talk to her about it.
Well, why didn't we do something with Wayne Jesse on that fund that's going out tomorrow? I am so upset that we
For those
didn't do
funds,
that.
you have to have a plan, and we haven't finished, that's what this is a plan. We're trying to finalize the plan so that we can legitimately start raising funds. If you don't have a plan, People are buying on a wish, and that's just not the way to go, in my opinion.
I don't think that's lost money either.
No.
I mean, we can apply for it on the next go.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think it's an annual thing. I'm not sure about that. but I
It's
don't
yearly,
think
yeah.
It is.
It is a yearly thing.
Yeah.
Well, we'd have to apply for it on.
We're gonna have ongoing needs,
And,
so.
and it may be that we use that fund to apply for, sustainability costs.
Well, whose job is it to apply for these funds here?
Well,
Who in the
that,
committee?
that is a great question.
Yeah, who is?
And,
It's my responsibility.
yeah, it's ultimately the town administrator's responsibility. We've got a tether with somebody that does grant writing, that has showed some interest in helping us out for minimal fees.
And you and I talked about
We've
this
been talking about
Right.
hiring a grant
Yep.
writer for,
You know, for 8
Ever.
years, I've talked about a grant writer of some type, and every year, well, so-and-so can do it. She lives down
Doesn't
the street, she's young, she's written grants before, but it never happens.
Right.
And so we've gotta be more proactive in making that happen. We've gotta find money,
yeah.
because I'm voting on this tonight, I'm voting for it, on the assumption that we're not raising taxes to do this.
Right,
Exactly.
and
And
that's,
when I
that is the
voted-
goal.
When I voted for 1.1 before, that's what I was
And
saying.
I remember you said, I want any money that's left over to go back into the Tabor Fund.
Correct.
But you know what? That'll never happen.
Well, we gotta work on that too, Sam.
Right. All right, let's call a vote. Marjorie Austin,
Yes.
Beth Justice,
Yes.
Larry Tuning.
Yes.
I say yes. Alana Courtney,
No.
Mary Hanson,
Yes.
Sandy Sergel.
No.
Okay. Motion passes 5-2. Thank you.
Not a penny, not a dime, not a penny more.
All right.
You didn't.
Any old business?
Didn't vote. You don't get to say.
No old business, all right. New business, short-term rentals. We,
That's me.
Can,
that's you?
Okay, so the town opened the doors to short-term rentals in April of 2021. Since then, I have been in a constant battle, tracking, monitoring, trying to research payments. We have owners and agents that just don't follow the code, they don't follow the rules. I have brought this to your attention in the past. This process is cumbersome. We probably collect 5% in revenue and spend 15% in employee time. Monthly posting, research, tracking on my spreadsheets. At this time, for 5 rentals, I don't even know who's paying or who's not paying. You know, then with the rentals, there's the business licenses, there's the annual permits. Until recently, the majority that renewed their permits did not have the accurate liability insurance. Our code states that it needs $1 million in liability, and the bulk of them didn't meet that liability insurance. Through all this tracking, there is no public means available for me to log on to a site to find out how many rentals Urbana has. I have to go to bookings.com, I have to go to Airbnb, I have to go to Verbo, I guess that's how you say it. So there's a cumbersome process trying to track down the renters, or I'm sorry, the short-term owners. So what I've done, I've reached out to the short-term rental owners on March 9th to explain the rules of the reporting. Along with, I put in my letter that they are required to bring their permit current, which is $25 a year, but it lets us know who's out there in the market, and it also proves that they do have the insurance to protect the folks visiting our town. And I also provided them with a lodging form for each month, for the month, and I explained that if they were using an agent, they are still required to submit the lodging form and just a copy of their report from their booking agent, which would tell me when Airbnb and Home Away and a lot of these places are sending this lump sum check, I know now which rental it goes to. Unfortunately, my letter of March 9th fell on deaf ears and I only received 2 replies. So on April the 5th, I drafted another letter with the approval of zoning. And in this letter, we got a little more harsh, and I gave them 10 days from the date of the letter to reply with bringing their permits and all current. If you would all look at the handouts that I provided you that were laying up there, you will see that we have the first 2, there was no reporting at all until December. The second one, they stopped reporting in October, and they're highlighted in yellow because they have no permit since 2021. The next company is an Evolve, and the one down in green is Evolve, and they are current
What
because
does that mean?
they use a booking agent called Evolve.
Okay.
So when Evolve sends the check, it's broken down, it's clearly spelled out. The next is you go through the list, and the very bottom one I discovered on Airbnb. They have no permit. I've never received any reporting at all. And so here I am. If I would not have discovered them on Airbnb, I wouldn't even know that they were doing business in the town. So with all that being said, I was trying to draw you all a picture. You know, we have 11 at this point, but it's very cumbersome and time consuming with a lot of tracking. So then what I've done is I did a little research for this evening, and I want to point out some facts about short-term rentals. That low housing inventory is hurting our local folks when it comes to buying these homes because they are competing with folks from Northern Virginia, Richmond, and even out of state. Given that the short-term rental industry has grown 800% since 2011, it is therefore not hard to see why many people are concerned about the industry's impact on affordable and availability of long-term rental housing. Just think about it. If a 10% increase in the number of short-term rental listings was found to lead to a 0.42 increase in rents, the actual 800% increase in short-term rental listings since 2011 would be responsible for a 33.6% increase in the overall rent. So the short-term rentals are pushing people out of our neighborhoods. Short-term rentals actually do have a much higher vacancy rate than long-term. Short-term rentals are much more susceptible to seasonal vacancies, renters canceling, and then there's sometimes that market saturation or excess competition. Let me reread that. Sometimes market saturation, I'm having a hard time talking, or excess competition. This all leads to an unexpected and unpredictable market because if we have too many, now we even have more sitting empty. And we're not getting the resident and we're not getting the lodging tax. The average vacation is about 5 days long, usually during peak seasons like summer and the holidays. That means a lot of the time the vacation rental is vacant. There are even websites out there, and I'm not going to go into too much detail, but they will teach you how to skirt around all our rules. That's all I'm saying. As of August 2022, August 2021, 60% of our homes in Urbana were Urbana residents and 40% was non-residents. And I don't know who was on, if y'all remember, I produced this, and Larry, you asked me what this was going to be good for. Good tracking tool. So Urbana tax in 2021 was Urbana 60%, resident, non-resident was at 40. I reran it from the 2022 tax file, and we're going down. So now we're at 58% residency and 42%. So it came up, it adjusted 2% in a year. And that's what I have to say, folks.
Interesting
My,
report.
I think one of the planning commission's concerns was not only the percentage, the balance of a short-term rental to full-time residents, but that we have a housing crisis. And
Right.
people cannot find housing.
Yep.
They cannot find places to rent or buy. They cannot live in Urbana. And the more short-term rentals we have, the less inventory that's available for people to live full-time. And that's one of our concerns as a community.
Well, look at places like
Everybody
Kitty
else is
Hawk.
having that concern.
Yes, I
Yep.
know, I
Like,
know.
yeah, there's
Yeah.
plenty of places out there. So, yes, they're good. Yes, the income is good, but we have to find that balance. And if we become too saturated, it's not gonna be pretty. The other side of that is, letters are going out, it's in the code, and these 5 delinquencies are gonna get a cease, letter, if that's,
And we're not the only locality that's having these issues. The General Assembly updated the state law. I have prepared a revision to our ordinance to fix these problems. And, the next step will be talking with Michelle and kind of tweaking that for her practice on a day-to-day basis.
What does the update say about the number of units that?
It doesn't.
And it doesn't limit the number of units that someone can operate?
No, it talks about, when you have third-party, vendors that are paying. It addresses kind of that complication on the local level. That would be something that you could
That a
address
locality would,
on a zoning
okay.
level.
Don't they have to get a business license?
yes, sir. First, they're required to get the permit and, fill that out. There's a business license involved. They have to provide proof of insurance, homeowners insurance and liability. And when they submit their necessary information, I review it first and then it goes to Roy as zoning. If they meet the qualifications, then we issue a permit.
So what you're saying is that there are people that are opening these things, not coming in and getting a business license, so you don't know where they are.
Right, or the permit, they go hand in hand. And then there's also the issue of the monthly reporting, because if these I wanna call them renters, I'm so sorry. If these, owners are not supplying that monthly form that is required and that is in the code, I'm no fortune teller, I can only but do so much to track them down. And what's disheartening is, I reached out to them twice within 1 month. And I didn't even, half of them, no reply.
Bill,
But they wanna collect their money,
Some arrest a letter.
what's that?
Bill,
Yeah.
Andy
They don't go
would
get
like
it.
to say something. It's got to,
I'll be honest, I don't know, I haven't gotten anything, I might be delinquent. My frustration with like Airbnb, they take 25%, and I don't know if it's going to the county or here, it should be coming here, the county doesn't get that tax. I can't get an answer where it is, I don't know where it is, and to ensure that you get it, I'm frustrated.
We get, what, 5%, right?
We get 5%.
But
So
Airbnb
it's the
takes
owner's
25%.
responsibility Airbnb will not talk to me.
All right, they won't talk to me.
Well, you have the ability online
Don't
as
do
the owner,
business with
because
them.
other owners are the ones that I've able to get through. They send me their report and it shows exactly, it says Middlesex, or I'm sorry, it says Urbana, it says state. It's a complete breakdown as, it's very simple to obtain with the form. And I even put in the letter, you can email it to me, you don't even have to put the stamp on it.
I'm not really interested in a report, I just wanna give you a check saying this, they take it, it's not an option, they take the money.
Well, they may be taking it, Andy, but I don't know who to credit it to. When I get a check in from Airbnb and I'm just gonna make up a number, $1,000, do I credit it to you or do I credit to Andre over here? I have no idea. So if you're not filling out your form, I don't know.
Give it to Roy to cover his moving costs.
Yeah.
which are substantial.
Are you a
Well,
short-term or rental?
I'm a long.
He's in for the long haul.
About the housing crisis?
No.
We have a housing crisis, we do. But the problem is our rent is too low. You're forced to go to Airbnb. Our rent here, the average rent in town is $900. You're gonna go out and buy a $280,000 rental house and rent it for $900? Absolutely not. It's oppressed by too many people. And it sounds crazy to say that, but hey, welfare gives you $1,000. Why are we charging $900? Nobody wants to invest in it, so you're forced to do Airbnb.
Interesting, okay. All right.
Right, so we're,
So,
So it's a work in progress.
yeah, it's a work in
So we don't
progress.
wanna put a
Our
limit?
town attorney is
We don't
looking
wanna put a
into
limit on it?
modifying our ordinance so that we can be up to date.
Since-
Any announcements?
I
If,
know.
I have one announcement, that, again, at the
Microphone next
Municipal
time.
Planning
I
District.
can't say anything.
Most people, it doesn't matter, but there's plenty of money out there for septic field repair, if somebody's got that issue.
How did we close this thing out?
we didn't because they went over top of me. I was gonna make,
yeah.
since the planning commission, we had been working with that. I'm gonna suggest that we table it, give it to the attorney and Garth, and then we'll know from the planning commission. You know, if you need us
Come with some kind of.
to do that, table it, and,
Based on
and then
what
have a
we hear.
conversation on it later.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I'm working on the logistical, practical part of making Michelle's life better.
Right,
If the planning commission wants to work on limiting
Yes.
these types of uses, I'm happy to help you with that, but
Okay.
I'm not working on that at this time.
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where
Part of
we're,
what we
Does
wanna
that require a
explore.
motion?
that's
or we're
what we
just
want to
saying table?
explore.
Okay.
Nope. doesn't
Marjorie?
require a motion.
Any other announcements?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Have it quiet.
All right. Marjorie?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
Yes. Alana?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Thank everybody for coming.